Hi everybody, hope you've had a good week. I think this is week 4 going on distance learning, so hope everything's going well. This week we are using data to predict. So it's pretty simple. We also have another lesson this week. So if you look through the work that I post on Google Classroom, the first 3 days go along with this lesson, and then Thursday I will post another lesson, and that goes on for Friday's work. Okay, so this is just a lesson for the next 3 days. So when you get to the packet and it has another notes page on sales tax and cost, then you'll need to watch that video on Thursday before you can move on. Okay, it's pretty simple work, so it's nothing too hard. It's definitely easier than last week. It's not as much writing. It is still a little bit of reading, but it's not a whole bunch of writing. It's still math calculations right now. All right, so a survey, this is not a new term to us. We talked about surveys last week, but it's designed to collect data about a specific group of people. Excuse me. And then a population is that group of people that you are collecting the data from, that you're surveying. Okay. So we have an example here. It says a survey was given in which children from ages 10 to 12 were asked whether or not they have a pet in their house. 64% of the children do not have a pet in the house. Okay, so 64% do have a pet in the house, and 36% do not. Okay, so I'm going to do a little squiggly. So we know 64% do have a pet, 36% do not have a pet in their house. Predict how many out of 2,400 would not have a pet in their house. So with the percent that do not have a pet, I squiggly lined, so I'm going to squiggly line my 2,400. Because those both go with not having a pet. And then it says to predict out how many out of 1,650 would have a pet in their house. So I'm going to underline that 1,650 so I know that it goes with the 64%. So in order to predict how many people, based on the data given, you're just simply going to multiply however many people that they're telling you to predict out of how many people, the total amount of people. You're going to multiply that by whatever percentage said they do have a pet, or whatever percentage said they do not have a pet. Okay, so at first we're going to look at the percent of people who do not have a pet. So we're going to take that 2,400. That's the total amount of people. So you're multiplying that 2,400 times the percentage of the people who do not have a pet. So we were told that 36% do not have a pet. Okay, so remember they're multiplying it by 0.36. Remember, if you have a percentage, so we have 36% in this case, you have a decimal place right there at the end of 36 because that's a whole number. So in order to change it to a decimal, you just move that decimal place 2 places to the left. Okay, so it becomes a 0.36. Or if you don't want to do that, you can simply just use your percent sign in your calculator, which is the second parenthesis button. Okay. But don't do both. Don't move your decimal and tag a percent sign on it, because that will not be correct. Okay. So either move the decimal and multiply like this, or either use just the 36%. Okay. And you can see we're going to get the same thing. So if I do 2,400 times what they did, 0.36, that's how they got 864. Or if you prefer to use your percent sign, you can say 2,400 times 36%. And so I've got to do the second parenthesis button, and I'll pull up that percent sign. And you still get the same answer. Okay, so whichever you prefer, I do not care. I normally use my percent button in the calculator, and then it's just a little bit easier. Okay, so it's 864. So 864 children would not have a pet in their house. And then they also asked how many would have a pet in their house. So we're doing the same exact thing, but with the different numbers. Okay, so I've got 1,650 people who, that's the total number of people that we're looking at. And then we know that 64% of them would have a pet in their house. So we're multiplying by the 0.64, or remember you can multiply by the percent sign. So you can say 1650 times, 64%. And you still get the same number. So 1,056 people or children would have a pet in their house. Okay, so super simple. You're just taking that total amount of people and you're multiplying by the percent that they give you. Okay, so let's look at number 1. We've got some hot chocolate. It says 58% of students surveyed said they liked marshmallows in their hot chocolate. Predict how many students out of 1,225 like marshmallows in their hot chocolate. Okay, so I'm taking it out of this number. So I've got 1,225, and then I'm going to multiply that by the percentage of students that said they do like it, which they gave me was 58%. And I'm just going to use my percent sign. Times 58%. And that gives me a decimal. We're talking about people here. So you cannot have a half of a person. So in this case, because it's 0.5, I'm going to round this up. I'm going to say it's about 711 people. Okay. So about 711 students like hot chocolate, or like marshmallows in their hot chocolate. Okay. So you're kind of estimating here. Okay, so make sure that you say about 711 students. Okay. Number 2, it says 42% of the students surveyed said they do not like marshmallows in their hot chocolate. Predict how many students out of 980 do not like marshmallows. So I'm taking that total amount that we're surveying, so 980, times the percent, which is 42. So times 42%, 980 times 42% is 411.6. So again, we're going to round that up and we're going to say about 412. Okay. So about 412 students. So those two problems are pretty simple because they're only giving you 1% and one total number, so it's kind of easy to look at those two numbers and you just know that you have to multiply them together. But number 3 and 4 is not necessarily that easy. Number 3, it says 6 out of the 10 students surveyed said they wanted to explore the museum alone rather than be led by a tour guide. Predict how many students out of 150 would prefer to explore the museum alone. So I know that the total students that I'm surveying is 150, okay? But do you see a percent sign in there anywhere? It's not giving you a percentage. It's not saying 20% of students said they wanted to explore, okay? But it does tell you 6 of the 10. So 6 of the 10, that means 6 out of 10 students. So you can say 6 out of 10. So 6 divided by 10. And if you just do 6 divided by 10, it's going to give you a decimal, and you can use that decimal or you can convert it to a percent. So 6 divided by 10 is going to give you 0.6, which is the same, again, if you add a 0 to that, that's 0.60. So if you were to move that back to a percent, up here we took a percent and changed it to a decimal, so we moved it to the left. So here I'm doing the opposite. I have a decimal, and if I want to move it to a percent, that means I would move it to 2 places to the right. So again, you can just simply use this 0.60 and multiply like they did in the example, or you can say that this is 60%, and you can use that percent sign. Okay, either one of these options work. But you're just taking that 6 of the 10. Okay, so 6 out of 10 students said. So you're taking that 6 out of 10 and you're turning that into a percent sign. So you simply just say 6 divided by 10. Okay. So I've got 150 students that I'm surveying. So I want to multiply that by the 60%. So 150 times 60% is 90. So in this case, we don't really have to estimate, so you can just say 90 students. You only really have to say that about when you are when you get a decimal answer and you have to round. Okay, so this gave me a flat 90, so I can just say 90 students. Okay, and then last example, number 4 says 40 out of 100 teenagers said science is their favorite class. Predict how many students out of 650 would choose science as their favorite class. So this is really similar to problem number 3 that we just did. I know that I'm surveying 650 students. It says how many students out of 650, but I don't know my percent. But they do say that 40 out of 100 teenagers said science is their favorite class. So again, we're gonna divide 40 out of 100. Okay, and because it's out of 100, this is super simple because percent are out of 100. So 40 out of 100, you know that this is 40%. Okay, so this would either be 0.40 or 40%. Okay, anything out of 100 is just that number because percents are out of 100. So if you had 30 out of 100 teenagers, then that's 30%. But it only goes for when you're out of 100. Okay, not if it was out of 200 or out of 150, you couldn't just say that number. It has to be out of 100 to just know that, okay, it's 40% then. All right. So now we know our percent. We know our total number of people. So we are just multiplying. So 650 times 40%. What that is. It gives me 260. So it gives me a whole number again. So 260 students would prefer to walk around the museum by themselves and not with a tour guide. All right. So not too bad, hopefully. Remember, you can use your decimal as a percent, or you can use the percent sign in your calculator. Either one of those will give you the correct answer. Okay. So you don't really have anything else to do today. This was today's work, and then the next page is Tuesday's work. So this is all for you to do on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday you have this page. And then I will video another lesson for you, and I will post that other lesson on Thursday, and then you can do those last 2 pages of the packet, okay, on Thursday and Friday. Thank you to all of you who are watching my videos and getting your work done and completing those check-ins that I've asked you to complete. I will send out another check-in on Thursday again this week. So maybe try to do Thursday's work, or try to do the check-in after you've already watched Thursday's lesson, just to make sure that you understand it and you don't have any questions for me. Okay? All right. Hope y'all have a good week. And again, like always, email me if you have any questions.